Hi beautiful, welcome back. I am going to do a shop my stash. Now I've already gone through my makeup collection and I've picked out products that I've only used once. So I thought I will revisit them and share you my second impressions or thoughts. So without further ado, let's hop right into the video. I have a container full of products. So these are the products that I've only used once in the video and I kind of forgotten about them, which is really bad. So I'm going to start with my eyes because I don't know what to do with my eyes, and for the base basically it's just the same thing that I normally do, except the products that I'll be using are quite different. So I'm going to quickly prime my eyes with the ABH Eye Primer. I don't like to put a lot of this eye primer because it's quite intense. For eyeshadow palette, I have two palettes that I've only touched once. One is from OPV Beauty and this is the Emoji eyeshadow palette. I did use this on my full face of black on makeup and it's such a good eyeshadow palette, but the color scheme in here are more for neutral, cool tone type of look, gearing towards fall. But because it's currently springtime here in New Zealand, I want it to be a little bit more fun and colorful. So I have the Naked Ultraviolet eyeshadow palette, so I might dip in both, see how it goes. But the main eyeshadow palette that I really want to play is this one right here. So I'm going to pick a small crease brush and I'm going to pick up the shade called Mind Slip. It's on that peachy tone and I'm kind of going to use that shade to set my lids and add a little bit of color. I might go with the shade Digital, which is the darkest shade, and I really want to pop that on my outer V. I know it has a little bit of shimmer, but that's like the darkest shade that we have. So I'm going to use the same brush and focus that on the outer V and slightly blend that into the crease. I am going to go and use the same brush. I'll just swipe it a little bit and go to the shade Warning. And I'm going to use the shade to blend this area right here to add a little bit of purple. I know it has a little bit of shimmer, but it will add a little bit of depth onto the look. So slightly building that color up. And I'm going to go back to Digital just to intensify the outer V. With the brush that came with the palette, I'm going to pick up Optimize, which is a nice, I would say that's more of like a lavender shade. And I'm going to use that to blend the outer part. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of Hacked with the same brush just to blend the V. So now that we have a hint of purple, I actually want to use this shade called Euphoric. And I'm going to use my fingers to pop that. And then I'm gonna go back to Digital just to blend the outer corners a little bit so we don't have any harsh edges. I want to go over that with this shade called Cyber Pink. So I'm gonna pop that just about here. And I'm gonna go back to Digital. And I'm going to pick up a more precise brush and go back to the shade Euphoric just to kind of tidy this a little bit. With a pencil brush, I'm going to go back to Warning. Blend that around here. So the eyes is pretty much done, and I actually quite like how there's a little bit of movement when I tilt my eyes. So I'm quickly going to apply my mascara and then we're gonna move on to the face. I've used this a couple of times. It doesn't necessarily mean that I've only used this once, but it's not something that I grab frequently. So this is the YSL Touche Eclat primer, and this one is the one with gold reflex. I know they came out with the ones with silver reflex. It's not breathtaking or life-changing that I'm going to pick up from time to time, but I have purchased that for quite a while now. I actually don't know why. I think I was enticed by the packaging. This is the Danessa Myricks Vision Cream Cover. I was meant to do a wear test on this foundation, but I've forgotten. So based on my first impression, this is very, very full coverage. You only get 15 mils of product, which is half your foundation, but if it's very, very full coverage, then you only need a teeny tiny bit. So this is how much I got, and it's very, very thick. It reminds me of like a moussey foundation. So, and I have the shade N06, which is, I think, a little bit dark, but we'll make it work. So I'm only gonna apply that much. I still have a few left on my finger. Just gonna quickly use a brush. So that's a very thin layer of the foundation. Personally, I feel like it did a good job in covering my acne scars. I mean, I could definitely do a little bit more, but for an everyday basis, I feel like I'm fine. So I'm just gonna use whatever I have left. So I think I'm going to use a sponge for this because I don't want it to be like extremely intense. So here is what my face is looking like. Obviously it's a little bit darker than my neck, but I feel like the coverage is really, really good. I don't like the foundation with the primer. I feel like I probably much prefer a more hydrating primer as opposed to a silicone primer. For concealer, I have the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer with a satin finish, and my one is in the shade Medium Neutral, which runs more yellow. I feel like medium yellow would be a perfect name because it's so yellow. It's not even neutral. I feel like this is a lot more forgiving than the 16-hour Camo Concealer, and the packaging does not leak, which is really, really good. The reason why I've only used this once is because I have other concealers that I currently enjoy, and also there's no point of me using like 5 concealers when I only have one face. But it's nice to kind of just dabble in. I don't really have a powder that I've only used once, but I do have a powder that I don't use quite as much, and that's the Too Faced Peach Perfect Loose Powder. It's not because that I don't like it, it's because, again, I have other powders that I'm currently using, so I tend to just leave it on the side while trying to use up other powders. I'll just quickly apply this. This is not something that I've only used once. I've used this multiple times and I've featured this multiple times. So I'm just gonna quickly do that, and I'll just quickly set the rest of my face. For bronzer today, this is another product that I've only used maybe a few times. So I purchased this when I did a full face of Ilia. This is the Ilia Highlight Bronzing Powder, and this one is in the shade Novelty. This is more of like a neutral golden undertone bronzer, and it's a nice bronzer. It doesn't contain any talc, which is a good thing, and I find that a lot of Ilia face powders don't contain talc, which is really, really good, especially if you have an allergic reaction or if you're a person that does not like having talc in their products. Then you'll really enjoy this. It's very blendable. It's matte. It's not those shimmery bronzer, which tends to be the case when it comes to clean bronzers, like clean beauty products. They tend to have a little bit more sheen. Another face powder that I have not used specifically, so this is the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Blush, and this one is in the shade Luminous Flush. So this is what it looks like. It's a nice pink blush. It's more cool toned, and hopefully it goes well with our look because we're sporting a purple look. To finish off the eyes, I typically just use one shadow. So I'm going to pick the shade Euphoric so that we could match whatever we have on top. Then for the outer part, I'm going to pick up this shade called Digital. That's the darker shade that we use for the outer V, so then we can just connect that through. For inner corner highlight, I just used Lucid with the brush that it came with. Then I'm just going to quickly apply mascara. Again, I'm not going to do any false lashes. I have this Wet n Wild Liquid Catsu lipstick. It's a high shine one. So I think I'm just going to apply that straight without lining my lips. The applicator has got a little bit of slant to it that allows me to go on the crevices of my and corners of my mouth. For highlighter today, I have this L'Oreal Paris by Karl Lagerfeld collaboration. I believe they just have that one highlighter, so the middle is a little bit more bronzy and the outer is a little bit more of that champagne color. So I am going to mix the two. I think I've only used this once, so I don't even know if I've ever used this. The shade of my foundation is completely different from my neck. Like if you could see my neck, it's more golden and my foundation is completely like orange. I don't have any setting spray, so I'm just gonna quickly spritz my face because I need a little bit of moisture back to my face. Here is my final makeup look. Please ignore the shade match because the foundations that I currently have is my summer shade and I'm actually quite pale at the moment. I have not been in the sun for quite some time. So yeah, so this is my finished makeup look. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe, like this video. Stay tuned for my next one. Bye.